Skull Buffs, baby.
You can feel it in the mountain air. College football is back in Boulder, and there is no better way to start it than with the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets coming to town, led by Haynes King, the former 1990 co-national champions of the Buffaloes, ready to kick off the season. Gentlemen, how good does it feel to have college football back on campus?
I am ecstatic. This is the first year I can remember in a while where I really have no clue who's going to win a national championship. And for the third straight year, I'm anxiously excited to see what the Colorado Buffaloes can do.
Patrick, how are you feeling about this season?
I think earlier, maybe this is a spoiler for a later segment, but Nick asked me what my expectations for the season were, and the exact quote I gave him was, "I have no idea." So we'll talk about that more later, obviously, but it's a very exciting season in terms of I have no expectations because there's so many moving parts. I felt really – it was really hard for me, like, over the offseason to, like, actually say, oh, I can say they'll win this game, because there's so many moving parts. So you have no idea what to expect. We're going to learn something new about this team every single week.
Absolutely. Leo, how about you?
Hey, one thing's for sure, we're going to see some smash mouth big plays and some physical football, regardless of whether it's Colorado or some of these other teams. But I think we can expect to see a lot of fun things on the ground and in the trenches this season.
Yeah, an absolutely new look team for the Buffaloes this year. And the biggest story of the offseason was the quarterback battle. Transfer quarterback Caden Salter from Liberty, five-star freshman Julian Lewis. It was down to the wire, and today we got the news that Caden Salter will be the starting quarterback come week 1. Gentlemen, what do we think? Is that the right pick?
I do think it is the right pick, and offensive coordinator Pat Shermer said it best yesterday. There's no substitute for good experience, and that's what Salter presents, a dual-threat guy with an amazing season under his belt in 2023 with Liberty, a guy that's been around a while, that's seen the bright lights, that's ready for the bright lights, and that's what Coach Brian Deion Sanders mentioned today, and that's something he's not going to back down for. And I think ultimately, despite Julian Lewis being kind of far along in terms of him being a freshman, I think Salter's the guy. Patrick, how about you?
I think it was always going to be Salter. I think it's a tough sell to kind of get a 17-year-old to start week 1 versus Georgia Tech. I always thought we'd get a chance to see Lewis eventually, but I always knew it was going to be Salter. I mean, like Harrison said, the experience, that's something you can't kind of just force upon a young quarterback. Like, that's just going to come with time. So until then, it's going to be Salter. I think it's very interesting. He's a very different quarterback than Shedeur was. So I'm very curious to see what Shermer does with that in terms of schematically, to see how he handles having a completely different quarterback than he had the last 2 years.
Two things Coach Prime said. Bona fide leader. That is what represents Caden Salter, and I think that is what he provides to this team. That Juju Lewis just isn't quite ready to step up and take that role yet. I think, later down the line, and of course throughout this game action, he will be seeing the field at some points, but this is Caden Salter's team. They will go as far as Caden takes them, whether that's through the air or on the ground. Specifically, he adds a layer to this offense that they've really lacked the last 2 years that I think should make a lot of Buff fans really excited.
Yeah, I like the pick too as well. I think that experience is completely invaluable, and him leading this offense, I mean, they've focused very heavily on the run game during this offseason, hiring Marshall Faulk, and he brings that dual threat ability as well that you can now pair with that new look backfield. I think it creates a really interesting offense. It's a very different offense than what we're used to, but I mean, Salter's a guy who scores. He's tied for number 1 in touchdowns responsible for over the last 2 years with Cade Klubnik out of Clemson. And I think that he gives this offense the best chance to win now. And you also don't want to risk stunting the growth of a 5-star quarterback like Julian Lewis. That's how you end up with guys in the transfer portal and just early struggles. So what do you think is in store for Juju's freshman season now that he is going to be riding the bench? He's not getting that week 1 start. What do you guys think that we're going to see out of him this season?
Well, Deion said that they hope that they can actually use him periodically, and there was a report by Pete Nakos today of On3 that they kind of want to use him sort of like every few drives, something like that. If obviously if there's a blowout, they bring him in, give him some reps. So they do want to give him some reps against, power forward defenses and stuff like that. So for him, I think he could see the field. I think there's a very, very good chance of that. They compared it to something like Aiden Childs at Oregon State last year. And while maybe that won't necessarily bode well in terms of success for the Buffs, I mean, we'll have to just wait and see how they utilize him.
Yeah, I think this was always a transitional year. It's like they're kind of the narrative. What I've heard a lot is the team overall is better, but they're missing one of the best quarterbacks in America last year. They're missing the Heisman winner. So there's always a transition between that. I mean, you have so many moving parts. That's kind of just the norm with Deion Sanders football teams is everything's moving around. Preseason, my expectation was always, I think if the Buffs were 3-3, 4-4, something like that, I think at that point they would probably just start Juju for the rest of the year, just see what they have out of him. If, they're barely scraping by to get into bowl contention. I think if somehow they have 8 wins, then I think we'd get to a point where Juju is not playing anymore, because then clearly Caden's the guy for the year and he'd see things out to the end. But I think there's a realistic chance. I mean, we'll get into season expectations later, but there's a realistic chance that the team could go 4-0 to start. I think if they don't, I think we'll see more Juju. But if I think they go 4-0 to start, we'll kind of see things as planned, like 90% Caden, 10% Juju for the first part of the season.
Yeah, I think, definitely having to look at these first few games is important because, obviously the red shirt is still a possibility, still on the table there. How much do you want to save his eligibility? Are you expecting Juju to even remain around in college that long? I think the expectation for him coming in is that Colorado and Deion Sanders specifically are going to provide him the tools necessary to advance his game onto the next level in the future. Whether that's next year he's the starter or, takes over mid-season, I don't know what that looks like. But I do see more of a ladder situation where, he kind of plays in spurts throughout this season. I prefer a red shirt, but next year this will be his team.
Yeah, I think that, this gives him a great chance to learn under a guy like Salter. As I said, that experience is invaluable. And now we get to see him, in spurts. We get to see him getting that game action, but also not, feeling like he has to have this team on his back. And with a 17-year-old kid, like that's a lot of pressure to put on him. And I think that was an unrealistic expectation. I think, yeah, like Coach Prime said today, like this is, you knew it was going to be Caden, and there's good reason for that. The experience lacking with Juju is just a little too much to overlook, a little too dangerous in my opinion. But when it comes to who is the starter long term, how short of a leash do you think you keep on either one of these guys before you say, okay, it's not your team anymore, we're making the switch? It's going to be Juju as the starter. How short of a leash do you keep?
Well, first you kind of have to look at the identity of the offense. And, is it going to be an offense that's as reliant on quarterback play or wide receiver play as last year's was with Shedeur, with Travis Hunter, with those receivers? You have to look at how well is the offensive line playing? How are these moving parts protecting Salter from injury, from taking a lot of hits? So I think there's a considerable leash you have on him. With this being his last year, you want to see, give him a good shake. But again, you do worry at times about his ability to translate to Power 4 because this is a guy that's only succeeded at Liberty, where it's a Conference USA schedule. It's, obviously going to be a step up. Though we've seen success, we've seen Jackson State, obviously, with Shedeur and Travis Hunter, being able to translate into the Big 12, into the Pac-12. So for Salter, I think the leash is going to be relatively long, but then you have a guy like Julian Lewis that they want to see out on the field even this early in his life, not just his career.
Yeah,
I think the leash just extends also away. It's not just all on Salter because he's a very different quarterback than Shedeur Sanders was here. I mean, Sanders was a pocket passer who had the ability to extend plays. Salter's kind of more of a true dual threat kind of guy. He uses legs quite a bit. That's how he gets production. So I think the leash is not only just on him, but it's also going to be on Shermer. It's going to be on the line coaches. It's going to be on game plan because all that's going to be so much different. My hope is we see a bit more complex run schemes. We saw a lot of just straight zone last year, start straight just like one-on-one up front at the line. I'm hoping with, when you have a quarterback that you can run these kind of triple options with, run these zone reads, get things a bit more complicated up front. And that's going to take time to get people adjusted to. It's a very unique system, but I think the leash is going to be a little bit longer than people might expect because of that. Because there's a lot of, it's not just a new quarterback. It's in every way, it's a new quarterback. So everybody around him is also going to have to adapt to that just as much as he is.
I think ultimately this leash is determined by how far this team is expected to go within their own goals, right? Dion has said out to the public that their goal is to go out and compete for a Big 12 championship. A few other players have said that. So that is going to be the expectation I will be holding them to so far to that standard. So based upon those qualifications of wanting to go out and compete for a championship, I think you got to give Caden Salter as much time to figure out his rhythm, find comfortability with these guys. He hasn't played with a lot of these guys before, or most of everyone before, but so he's going to have to come in and figure it out pretty quickly. But I don't think you need to start hammering the Juju Lewis train right away if he has a bad game or two, or if he struggles along the way. Give him time. Now, if you're out in, week 7, 8, and you're talking about your chances of making the playoffs or, that championship game being on the line and, you don't trust Caden Salter to go out and get that W, then I think is when you go ahead and make the change and try to provide a spark to this team. But ultimately, again, I am anticipating that Caden Salter has a pretty consistent season under center, is able to ride this train out for hopefully the whole season.
Yeah, this whole offense, new look. This is there's a lot of new pieces in it, and you gotta check this offense along with the quarterback as we're going along through non-conference play. That's going to tell us a lot. One of the new contributors that is going to be playing a large role in this offense, Draylen Miller, he's going to have a much bigger role. This week, Leo Rivera was able to go and check out one of his favorite places here in Boulder to eat. Let's head to him.
What's up, everybody? I'm Leo Rivera, the fourth outside of Gaia Masala Burger, based on a very special recommendation of the one, the only Draylen Miller.
It's the burger one by the
Is burger in the name?
Yeah.
Is it Guy Masala?
I think so.
Guy Masala burger with the pink bags?
Yeah. That place actually good.
Yeah.
So I'm actually wasn't a fan of the hill, but it's like every home game, my parents be like, "We're going to the hill after the game," so I'd be like, it just be funny. So I'd always grab some food from there after the game.
Here we are checking out the burger, of course, is the main thing. We just decided to get the plain cheeseburger, only ketchup, nothing crazy on it. Let's go ahead and take a look. All right, let's take the first bite. It's really good. It's really good stuff here. Really thick, good cheese, nice cheese pull. Really soft bread, crispy, but delicious. Kind of gives like In-N-Out vibes almost.
You gotta look inside there.
One thing we had to get, the fries and the sauce on the side. This is versatile. Just like Draylen Miller's versatile on the field.
Start the best player on defense for North Dakota State. That's run here by Miller. Third and goal. It's a catch and a touchdown. Draylen Miller, the freshman from Texas. For the play clock. Empty backfield for Shador. Sanders over the middle. Caught. Miller high stepping at the 5. Touchdown Buffaloes. What a play.
His favorite player is Deebo Samuel. Just shows you the kind of guy he is and the player he strives to be on the field.
Ever since I got to like 8th grade, freshman year, whole high school, it's always been Deebo Samuel. And, just his versatility and the way they move him around. And coming out of here, out of high school, that's what I emphasize on every visit, every school I visit. I was like, I want to be used like Deebo Samuel. And
It just seemed like just a year ago he was a young guy in a crowded wide receiver room. Now he has risen his way to the top and expected to be, a premier player in this offense. Look at that. Dipping in French fry into the cup, just like Draylen Miller hopes to be dipping in the end zone this fall. Draylen Miller and the Buffs are really looking forward to playing Georgia Tech at home this Friday, just like I'm really looking forward to finishing this burger. And you know what? Normally I would give this about a 10 out of 10 on the scale, but because Draylen Miller recommended it, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 6. Wow, that was fantastic. Thank you so much to our friends again at Gaia Masala Burger. Make sure you guys could check it out on the hill. Here's the address posted. Again, thank you so much. Back to you guys at the desk.
All right, thank you for that. That was awesome. Let's go ahead and transition to some of the guys who are going to be providing up front for the Buffs this year. That's the run game. It's going to be crucial in this offense to get this offense going. It's going to be hopefully much better than last year. Isaiah Augustive led with 384 rushing yards. He's now gone. He's headed to South Carolina. They're going to need much better production out of that. And how crucial do you see this run game being to the offense as a whole this year?
Well, I mean, it depends on what they want to be, but it's invaluable at all times because you want to see a diversification of the play calling because you don't have a guy that like Travis Hunter you can just throw the ball up to and hope he comes down with it, or a Will Shepherd or a LeJontay Wester who you always trust is going to be open. So you need guys that are kind of foundational pieces that can get those 4 or 5 yards on first down and get you in a better position for some of those unproven wide receivers. Well, the wide receiver room, it's very deep, and we'll probably get into more of it later, but the running back room, it's not very deep. So you have to hope that, you find guys like Michael Welch or DeKalon Taylor, track hawk, super fast, versus Michael Welch, who's the more explosive guy, to, pick up those crucial yardage on early downs. I think that's a big part of it. And then red zone as well, because you've seen the Buffs, they've been inconsistent in red zone, but overall they've been an awesome red zone offense. So you need to continue that through the run game.
I think Caden Salter adds a completely new dynamic to the run game because now you've got a quarterback where you can scheme plays for him to be the runner, and then you've got an extra blocker out there. I think Michael Welch, he's got to be the guy. I think he's got to be the lead back. I mean, obviously there's going to be a back by committee. There's no star in the room, but somebody's going to get the most carries on the team. I think it has to be Welch. Last year was we started with Offerdahl, then they gave Hayden a chance, and then they went to Welch, and it was kind of a bit of a mess. Every week it was which running back is going to get 2.5 yards per carry this week. So I think if we can see the Buffs establish like one guy as on third and 3, 3rd and 2, who are we putting in the backfield? Whether it's Salter, if it's going to be a quarterback run, or if it's going to be Welch, there needs to be a guy on the team that can just get that 3rd and 2, because that was something that the Buffs struggled with so much the last 2 years. Is 3rd and 2. They didn't really have the personnel to go in some big jumbo set and kind of just punch it up the middle. They would go spread offense and then just hand it up the middle and get stuffed. So hopefully with the new personnel they have at the line, in the backfield, having Salter as a ball carrier, not just as someone who can, but someone who that's a strength, I think that adds a completely new dynamic. So I don't think it's just all about the running backs, but ideally there's one guy that stands out as this is the guy we can give it to on 3rd and 2.
Well, the Buffs are already going to be shorthanded Friday night with the loss of Dallin Hayden. Of course, was one of the returners who was expected to make good contribution this opening night. Like you said, that puts a lot of pressure on Michael Welch. But you look at the new transfers, DeKalon Taylor, Trackhawk, and Simeon Price. I think both of those guys are completely eager and more than comfortable and willing to step up and take that opportunity. Michael Welch himself also said that expect to see 2 backs on the field. I think, with that going in, it's going to be a little hard, a little more difficult, only having, 3 real guys you kind of trust, obviously with the loss of Charlie Offerdahl. But I think, that's a solid rotation, like you said, with Caden Salter. That should be enough to come in and get the job done week 1 versus Georgia Tech. But it all starts with the mentality, and it all starts up front with that offensive line. If those guys aren't moving, if they aren't creating holes, if they aren't setting the tone physically up front, it doesn't matter who you have back there running. They're going to go nowhere. I do think, though, that this unit is revamped and changed enough that we will see a better running attack on the field.
Yeah, and you mentioned Caden Salter being a guy who's going to contribute to that major. This is a dude who was a 1,000-yard rusher 2 years ago. I think that the Buffaloes, while this year, I think it's safe to say we're not looking at a 1,000-yard rusher. Caden may be the guy that if there's going to be a 1,000-yard rusher, it would have to be Caden. He'd have to be at his best. But, I mean, the Buffs need it bad. It's been since 2018 since they've had a 1,000-yard rusher. Trayvon McMillan was
the bar is on the floor.
It is on the floor, and I feel like as long as they don't trip over it, it'll be a better year than we've had in the past. Do you think there's even a chance we see a 1,000-yard rusher this season?
Yes, I do. I think it's Caden. I think Caden's the guy, and Patrick mentioned I didn't even actually think of it, but I think you also add the dynamic of having a tight end you can trust. I mean, we'll see how Zach Atkins is at terms of blocking, but you expect Savell Smalls to improve as well. So you have guys that can help set up the zone read, the read options, and then he'll obviously get into his scrambles. I mean, we even saw a little bit of it in the spring game, and especially when you don't have a proven wide receiver quite yet, a proven number one option. You hope to see that sort of element in the Buffs offense. So Caden Salter is the guy that would reach 1,000 if anybody.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see a 1,000-yard rusher. I do think Salter will be the leading rusher. Just off the top of my head, I think he's going to have a bit of a less of a penchant for taking 20-yard sacks and really tanking his rushing stats. So I think he would probably end up being either the leading rusher or the second leading rusher. I don't think we'll see 1,000. I think we'll probably see low 800, something like that. But I think it's going to be the goal for me is less get one guy to be the stud, be the guy that gets 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns, and just see. I want to see 2 or 3 guys at 500-600 yards, and each of them got 3-4 touchdowns on the season. Salter, one of them. Just show that there's more of a well-balanced run game, and it's not so much just running the ball just because we have to. As a play call, it's 1st and 10, we have to run the ball, or it's 3rd and 1, we have to run the ball. I want to see them run the ball because they know they can do it efficiently and because they can actually get something out of it. And so I don't think we'll see a 1,000-yard rusher, but the hope is that there will be a few guys that are putting up pretty productive numbers, 500-600 yards, 4.5 yards a carry. That would be a vast improvement over what we've seen in CU since, you said, 2018. So,
yep. Definitely. I think, 1,000 yards is the goal. Almost every running back writes first down on their list going into a season if you believe in yourself to go out and achieve that, which is something we've actually heard from a couple of these guys. I think they have the confidence with them in that room, but it's going to be on who can stay healthy, who's going to be able to get a bulk of those touches throughout the season, because that's kind of what's killed this Buffs running back room the last couple of years. There's been so many good faces, so many talent, but no one's been able to actually stay on the field for a whole duration of season to be able to receive the bulk of these carries. That being said, I wouldn't be surprised if we did see Trackhawk actually get 1,000 all-purpose yards. I don't think those are all going to be rushing, but counting in the fact that he does catch the ball at the backfield and is going to be doing some returning, I would not be surprised if he cracks 1,000 all-purpose.
Yeah, that would be a major contributor to the Buffaloes this year if they could get a 1,000-yard rusher. But like you said, we will probably have to see some good contribution from those transfers. But speaking of the transfer portal, this was another very active year for the Buffaloes in the portal. A lot of retooling at a number of positions this season with all the turnover that there was to the NFL draft. Who is one player from the transfer portal that you love and you're excited to see this season?
I'm going to go a little bit outside the box because I know most of the turnover was on offense, but I'm going to go with Reginald Hughes, linebacker from Jacksonville State. This is a guy that's waited his turn, started his career at Ole Miss, and came in, got 80 tackles last season, was All-Conference USA first team. That's a guy that is going to be extremely important for the defense to succeed because we saw last year with the linebacker duo, Levante Bentley, Nakai Hill-Green, that was instrumental to the defense improvement, especially stopping the run. And I see Hughes as a guy that can be that alongside Martavius French.
I'm going to go with Sincere Brown. He's gotten some publicity. He's had a very bizarre college career. He was at USF for, I think it was 3 years. Only played in one game over there. And then he went down to Campbell. And he had 1,000 yards last year. He was very productive. Obviously, it's a jump from the team he was playing at Campbell to who he's going to be playing in the Big 12. But his build, he's 6'5". I think he's just under 200 pounds. He's not a unit, but he's a guy that he's bigger than most DBs he's going to come up against. And I think he can kind of take over that Will Shepherd role where you put him on the outside the numbers, and, it's 2nd and 3, 2nd and 4. You got a chance to take a shot, and you just kind of throw it up to him. And he might be the guy that'd be able to go up and get it. Good red zone target. Obviously, he's under 200 pounds. He's a bit thin. So I'm very curious to see how he's going to handle contact, how he's going to be, catching passes over the middle when he has a big safety coming down over him. So, but I think he has a lot of potential. I think he slides right into that Will Shepherd role. And yeah, that's who I'm looking forward to the most.
When you look at the fact that this team needs to be a run-first team with Caden Salter at quarterback, you got to look at the trenches, right? And there were so many different offensive linemen, defensive linemen I was looking at, want to talk about. But one person specifically I wanted to mention was Xavier Hill, the guard coming from Memphis. boy, does he bring a lot of excitement, not only with his, physicality on that line, but the mental aspect. He's talked about his footwork, the way he's been able to learn from these offensive line coaches, apply his technique to his game early throughout fall camp. Not only that, playing left guard, he's going to be next to arguably the Buffs' best player in Jordan Seaton. Those two should form a dynamic pair. They've been building their chemistry this offseason, working together. I expect that to be the strong side of the field for the Buffaloes coming this season. I think we should see a lot of runs to the left side. And I think Xavier Hill is going to be a big reason why that will be successful this season. I'm very excited to see what he's able to do. And, of course, in pass pro, very intelligent, keeps his head on a swivel. And not only that, he's physical, he's nasty, and he's mean. That's what Colorado's lacked up front. I think you get someone who comes out, wants to take heads off, it makes it very exciting.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and stay on the offensive side as well. I'm really excited about Joseph Williams. This dude is a sophomore coming from Tulsa, and in his freshman year, he kind of became a contributor at one part of the season. He had 3 straight 100-yard games, the best of which being 158 yards and 3 touchdowns against East Carolina. One of the best games by any wide receiver in the country last season. It was incredible. And even though he kind of finds himself at like 3rd on the depth chart this season, with the Millers ahead of him, of course, this is a dude who is like, he's going to contribute. He's going to find his targets. And then, next year, the year after that, this dude is the number 1 target in the Buffs offense and one of the best receivers in the nation, in my opinion. This guy's absolutely electric, and I think he's going to put a lot of people on notice. He reminds me a lot of the story we had with LeJontay Wester coming from Florida Atlantic and then coming into the Buffs offense and carving out his role and then really thriving and succeeding in it. But this is just, as I mentioned, one of in a string of very productive off seasons for Coach Prime and the transfer portal. Overall, in his tenure, how would you rate the job that he has done and just that that this coaching staff has done in bringing in players? And how do you think it has set them up for success this season?
It's been impeccable. This is a guy in Coach Prime that was kind of ahead of the curve when he came in, basically completely renovated the entire roster. You didn't see that ever. And now you see it all the time. And, with last year's team coming in, very new look as well, with a lot of the talent being defensive, another new offensive line. But you saw the strides made. And you look at also the coaching staff hires he's made. A Robert Livingston last year with Warren Sapp, Damian Lewis in the defensive line. That helped them, endlessly. They led the Big 12 in sacks. You never would have expected that kind of improvement. And a lot of it had to do with the transfers. But I think you also have guys that are kind of the glue, the guys that have been around, the Arden Walkers of the world, that kind of, keep everyone's energy high, teach people about what it means to be Colorado Buffalo. And I think that's been big.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like you said, he's kind of revolutionized how you build a college football team. When his first season came in and there was pretty much the entire roster was turned over and nobody had any faith that would ever work ever. They won 4 games, but they were a competitive team. They weren't getting blown out in all their losses. It wasn't like they were nowhere. And then the next year they did the same thing. There's a lot of transfers, and what did they finish with? It was 8 games, 9 games eventually. And that was a successful season. You lose the bowl game the way you did, but whatever, it was a good season. That was a solid way to follow up kind of the, I guess, disastrous second half of the first season. I think it's a bit tough this year because between those first 2 seasons, you still had the continuity of you had Travis Hunter, you had Shedeur Sanders, you had Cameron Stillman-Craig, you had guys like that they'll be the guys that will perform, and it's kind of just up to everybody else. But now you've lost those guys, and so you're kind of hoping, I guess, the people that they brought in can replace that production in the aggregate a little bit of Moneyball action. But I think they've done as good as they could. We've seen the trend follow outside of Colorado. Other schools are kind of emphasizing the transfer portal a little bit more than they have been in the past. So I think it's on a positive trend. I don't think we're going to see a major fall off from it. I think they're doing all the right things. They've got the right staff around it to kind of coach the guys up that they're bringing in.
I'm not going to beat a dead horse. I think, we touched on that aspect pretty well. I think specifically this season should be the best transfer class, yet. Obviously, that's going to be hard when you talk about Travis Hunter being in one of those transfer classes, but I think as a whole, with where they got depth at a variety of places on this roster, it should be a pretty good change.
Yeah, and speaking of transfers, Preston Hodge was a guy who transferred here just prior to this past season. Injury cut it short, and it wasn't exactly what he was hoping for. But we are hoping to see him back and leading this defense this year. Harrison had a little bit more on his story, so we'll go to him now.
Preston Hodge thought it was over. The defensive back spent a year at Navarro Junior College in Texas before getting his big break with the Liberty Flames. And after joining the Colorado Buffaloes last offseason, he just kept stacking. But once injury cut his stellar senior season short, time was up. Until it wasn't.
Ecstatic, excited. I have a son and a wife at home, so once I saw that, we went and celebrated. It was a blessing from God, and I wouldn't change it for the world, how anything went down.
Hodge was a craftsman in the slot, an all Big 12 honorable mention despite missing Colorado's last 4 games. He could have taken the NFL route, but after a court ruling awarded all JUCO athletes an extra year of eligibility, he's back in black and gold. There was never any doubt.
God blessed me with another year this year, and I promised myself that I wouldn't be the same Preston. So I decided to switch my number up to number 4 and just be a better version of me, which is step out my comfort zone and try to be that leader, try to be that dog, and that's what I've done.
In addition, Colorado has lost an abundance of senior leadership, leaving a greater void for Hodge to fill this fall.
Preston has come miles and miles away of how he's practicing and how he's approaching this year. That feeds on the rest of the guys in that room.
With the Buffs just days from kickoff against Georgia Tech, Hodge's maintained experience and renewed mindset will come together in one unexpected curtain call. A true hodgepodge, if you will. In Boulder, Harrison Simeon, Scope Buff Sports.
All right, thank you for that insight. But without further ado, let's get to our selections. Starting off, we're going to look around the Big 12, see what Week 1 games we have going on with some of the other teams around Colorado. We'll start off with the UCF Knights facing the Jacksonville State Gamecocks. Who are you taking?
Well, don't want to overthink it here. Scott Frost coming in, trying to establish new culture, trying to redeem himself a little bit at UCF, and I think that's a guy that's going to get a first win against Jacksonville State.
I'm kind of in the same boat. It's not the easy pick because you never know how college football goes, but it's going to be UCF. They've got pretty much everything going for them.
As much as I would like to come out and say that we're going to have a cool upset in Jacksonville State, that's not realistic. I think UCF take care of business. Now, whether that's a blowout or not, it could be a close game. I think, that's a very realistic possibility, but give me UCF.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go ahead and take UCF as well. Cam Fancher won that starting quarterback job there. Florida Atlantic transfer, beat out Taven Jackson for the job, which wasn't something many people were expecting. But this to me is kind of like a tune-up game. I think that they're not going to. I don't think that this is going to be something they stumble over. I trust this UCF team to get that win. But next up, we got the Nebraska Cornhuskers facing the Cincinnati Bearcats. Now, this one a neutral site game at Kansas City at Arrowhead Stadium. Who do you got taking this one?
Well, as much as this pains me to say this as a Colorado Buffalo student, I think Nebraska takes it here. Cincinnati coming in, trying to really get themselves in a better shape in Big 12. I still don't know if they're quite there yet. They still got Brendan Sorsby, nice quarterback, but I think Dylan Raiola takes the next step this year. I think going with the Huskers.
I'm also going to go Nebraska. They started off pretty hot last year. And I think Raiola, he's got a lot of raw talent. He clearly has the arm talent to be a successful Power 5 quarterback. It's just if he can, bring some things down. I don't want to make him a Holmes comparison because I know that's pretty.
Are we playing in the stadium?
Yeah, that's pretty easy to make right now. But he's kind of got that same at least in terms of the extrapolating his development. That would be the path that ideally we foresee for him. The guy that's kind of a loose cannon. And then he brings it in. He's got big play potential, but he can also make the right plays. If he can kind of reel things in a little bit this year, I think he'll be one of the better quarterbacks in the conference. I think Nebraska will get off to a hot start.
Yeah, looking at Coach Matt Rule going into his third season in the program, these guys are bought in. They've really seemed to, lock onto his culture. Not only that, the Nebraska fan base and, alum have really embraced him there in their team. And I think going into this year, there's more confidence within that unit. There's confidence within their coach. And I think that's going to carry over into week 1 where they have a pretty good showing against Cincinnati.
Yeah, I mean, with this being a neutral site game, you don't tend to factor in home field advantage. But man, like as much as I hate to say it, Nebraska fans travel in packs, and with Kansas City right around the corner, I mean, this is a Nebraska home game. Yeah. Nebraska's getting a home game. Those fans are loud. They're gonna affect this game. I do like Dylan Raiola, Dane Key. That offense is gonna be firing on all cylinders, I think. So I'm gonna go ahead and take Nebraska in that one. But then after that, we have another one of the most intriguing matchups of the week: Baylor taking on Auburn in a Big 12 SEC clash. Who do you got?
Well, I think Baylor has a coach in Dave Aranda who was at LSU, knows SEC offenses pretty well, and so I think Baylor is going to be a force in the Big 12 this year and take home a big statement win at home against Auburn.
I agree. I think we saw, especially like the way, just the thing that's most present in my mind is how Baylor competed against Colorado. They didn't roll over and die. It took one of the most insane plays of all of college football for Colorado to get themselves back in that game and win it in overtime. So, and like you said, coaching with SEC experience, I think Auburn is the favorite. I saw from some lines, I think it was like -2.5 or something like that. But I think Baylor's got a chance, and I think they'll make a big statement here, week 1.
This is a huge game for the Baylor Bears opening their season because this is a statement victory if they are able to pull this off, which I do believe they are going to do. You talk about the win streak they had towards the end of their season last year. They're looking to build on that, and of course, Texas saw some struggles this summer within the floodings and everything. They've kind of seemed to rally upon that. So it seems like this team's really come together. We got to hear from them at Big 12 Media Day a little bit. So I think, hearing that, the way their coach kind of piggybacked on that and has his guys riled up, they'll get the dub.
I'm really excited to see the quarterback battle. I mean, Sawyer Robertson came out of nowhere last year, won that starting job, and played incredibly well. Jackson Arnold, transferred out of Oklahoma, had incredibly high expectations there, and then didn't quite live up to them. And now he's kind of got that motivation to make it work at this second school. Will we see it right away? And especially against a team like Baylor, I don't know. And I am going to take Baylor for that reason. I'm not fully confident that Auburn's offense is going to be working to the level that they hope just yet. But yeah, it should be a close game. But then after that, we have the Arizona Wildcats taking on the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors, who last week became America's team after their first game.
Hey, I'm riding the bandwagon. I am riding it till the wheels fall off. I'm taking them over Arizona. Pulled off a big win against Stanford. I love Hawaii. I just love the aesthetic of it. I'm going with them.
Rainbow Warriors are 12-0 until proven otherwise. That's my projection as long as the season goes. I got them the favorites, everybody. I mean, to come off to the hot start that they have, if they can have another big win like this and they're 2-0, I mean, that's going to be some momentum for them. I know people debate all the time, is momentum a real thing? I think it is. You get 2 statement wins like that in a row, that makes everybody feel good in the locker room. Practice feels like less of a chore. Everybody's ready to get to work. People want to go to their meetings, and the machine of the football team flows a little bit better when you're winning these games. And especially when you're in a situation like Hawaii, where when you're playing your games, you're coming in a bit unique circumstances that nobody else in the country is kind of sharing with you. You're one of one. So I think if they start 2-0, they're going to be on a great trajectory. Honestly, I'm not going to lie. Don't know a whole lot about their conference outlook in general, like the whole conference as a whole. But if things go well for them, obviously they could be towards the top of that conference.
You know what? I'm coming to rain on the parade pretty quickly here.
Damn, man.
I think, this Arizona team was one that got punched on a lot last year. They took a lot of abuse, but they had seeds, right? They have a few, returners coming back that are going to be there to make some noise. I think this team ultimately is going to come out hungry with sore taste in their mouth because of the loss. And I think seeing the fact that Hawaii has had so much success last weekend really going to alert them and put them on their radar. So this is not going to be a trap game per se for them. I think Arizona comes out and takes care of business.
Yeah, I mean, game being played in Tucson, you got that home field advantage there. I personally am a big believer in Noah Fifita. I think he's going to have a big bounce back year. Last year, I think the new system did not work out well. I think he adjusts well this year, and he has a much better year. So I'm going to take Arizona, but I want to say Hawaii, dude, that team impressed me. Micah Alejado is a dog. That dude's a dog. That guy had a terrifying injury to start the game. Everyone's sitting at home thinking, is this guy gonna get back into another game this year? He hops out on one leg and goes and beats the Stanford Cardinal in the first game of the season. I absolutely love that. I think he can't be 100% for this game. And as good as he was, that was miraculous. I don't think it's going to happen again. But yeah, insane respect to him. Moving down to the coast, we got UCLA taking on Utah. Who do you got taking this game?
That's going to be a fun game. I got the Utes, though. I think Utah comes in with a vengeance this year. I mean, they still got a good coach, but they got a quarterback. They kind of figured it out. The Cam Rising situation was obviously a mess this last year or so. Devon Dampier, I'm a real believer in him, so I think Utah takes it on the road in the Rose Bowl at UCLA.
I agree. I think Utah's going to benefit a lot from having any resemblance of stability. Not worrying about, is this guy going to go down with another season-ending injury? Are we helping him with LinkedIn workshops, or is he going to be in team meetings? That's just such a distraction for the coaching staff to deal with because, you've got 5-6 quarterbacks in the room, and you've got to prepare all of them as best you can. When you've got one guy where, maybe he'll play this week, maybe he won't, maybe he'll play again this season, maybe he won't, maybe he'll come back, maybe he won't. That, just all these maybes going around your QB1 is such an incredible distraction. So I think to have some stability of this is our guy for the year. The team was good. The Utah football team was a good team last year. There was just a lot of instability at the most important position on the team. And that's a huge, huge hamper to the production as a whole, the way the whole unit works. So I think they'll benefit a lot from stability. I've got them taking this game as well. I think Utah could actually, assuming things don't kind of end up disastrously again in the quarterback room, they could be a player in the top 4 or 5 of the Big 12, I think. They've got a team. I think they've got a team.
Disagree with that. I'm going to go out and talk about UCLA and Chip Kelly, where they actually did some work in the portal, and I do think that they're going to come out wanting to make a statement, victory as well. I have a little bit more questions about this Utah team. I'm a little less hesitant to jump on, the support like you guys were. I think we're going to have to wait out and see what they're actually able to do, what this team, performs with their quarterback consistency now that you had a full offseason, of course. But go ahead and give me UCLA for the dub.
Yeah, I think that UCLA with Nico starting in that offense, it's going to be interesting. He's not working with nearly the weapons he was working with at Tennessee. You got to factor that in. That guy had a lot at his disposal with the Volunteers. It seemed like leaving that situation was kind of mind blowing to me. And now, he didn't really put up the type of numbers he was expecting to last year. And now he's got to get met with Utah's defense. And one thing that's not talked about enough is their linebacking core. Those dudes are going to give him struggles. He's going to be seeing ghosts by halftime at least. And I got to take Utah. I think they're gonna fluster him. Up next, though, we have on Monday night North Carolina taking on TCU.
Well, it's going to be highly anticipated. Obviously, Bill Belichick starting a new era there, establishing a culture, and I think it works out. I think they surprised some people. It's a new look team. He's brought in a lot of portal talent, so I think a really good TCU team, I'm not going to discount them at all, is going to fall on the road to North Carolina.
Yeah, I think TCU will be a player in the Big 12 to try and get that conference championship. But I think early on, I guess to kind of make some parallels to when Sanders came in as coach at CU and they went off to that hot start that first year because everybody was just so bought in. It's us against the world. Nobody believes in what we're doing. I think North Carolina kind of has a bit of that energy with them right now. Some of the biggest stories coming out of there have been about his girlfriend and not the football team. So I think they've kind of got a little bit of a chip on their shoulder of, hey, we're here to play football. We've got a football coach that, he's one of the most successful coaches in the history of the sport. And this guy knows how to coach pros. As college kind of veers more towards a pro environment in the last few years, I think as long as everybody's really bought into, the way Belichick runs things, the really tight ship he runs, I think they could be really successful. I don't know about the full season outlook for them in the ACC, but I think they definitely have the potential to get off to a really hot start early on.
Yeah, you look at, the fact that Bill Belichick is coming in, whole new change of scenery, right? He's never done this before. He's having to basically start all the way over fresh, learning from the beginning. But I do think that he's going to come in and change his program. And I think when you look at the fact that this team is riled up, ready to play for him, they're excited. You brought up a great point, Patrick. They've heard so much talk against them this whole offseason. And you come in, they've had this documentary as well in the works. They're going to be, broadcast. I think with that excitement, week one, Bill Belichick, they got to get the dub.
Yeah, for me, I mean, North Carolina, with all that attention around him, I could see it lighting a spark under them. But I think that this team is not going to produce what we're used to seeing out of Bill Belichick teams. We saw as soon as Brady left in New England, this was not the same Bill Belichick. Yeah. It was clear. This was not a Bill Belichick team that you're used to seeing. And I think that's going to be the same here. And especially when you're going up against a team like TCU, Josh Hoover is one of, if not the best quarterback in the Big 12. That dude is going to throw the ball all over the yard. This could be a very close game. I mean, it's in Chapel Hill, and it's, you never can count out Bill Belichick, and I think that he is a great all-time coach. But this isn't the same Bill Belichick we're used to, in my opinion. I'm going to go ahead and take TCU. Moving outside of the Big 12, we're going to start off with a former Big 12 team, the number one Texas Longhorns, facing the Ohio State Buckeyes. Who do you have?
Well, I got 4 words. I got Texas Longhorns, Arch Manning. I think it's the start of a new era. I'm a believer in Arch Manning. And while I know that, some people are like, oh, the last name, we haven't really seen him in a full capacity. And this is as big of an early, opening full season test as you could have in Ohio State. They still got Jeremiah Smith. They still got Caleb Downs. But I think the Longhorns take it home in a big, big marquee matchup.
Yeah, like you said, this is a marquee matchup. This is 2 big teams. If it goes the way I expect, which it'll be a close game, I don't think either team's going to be too like, oh my goodness, I cannot believe they lost this game. I think whoever wins is going to have to earn it. But I agree with Harrison. Arch Manning, I have high hopes for him. I mean, so does everybody. Everybody's kind of just assuming he's already the number 1 pick in this upcoming draft. But I think the Longhorns are going to do it. That's the real UT, the Longhorns. I want to set that record straight, everybody here. UT is the University of Texas. Go Horns. We've got a Tennessee fan here in our crowd, and that disgusts me. So, yeah, I believe in Arch Manning. I believe in UT. Ohio State's obviously, they're going to be one of the contenders this year. So it's hard to bet against them, but I think week 1, UT's got it.
If you have never watched a football game in your life, turn on the TV Saturday morning, big noon kickoff, and watch Texas versus Ohio State and tell me you cannot become a fan. That is how I feel about this matchup coming into week 1. This is epic. This is everything you want to see to kick off the season. And I think it's going to be a great clash where Ohio State is going to have the edge. I feel confident in what they're able to come in off that national championship winning season. I like Coach Day a lot. I think his programs, turn the corner, and they're going to come in and show people that they're still here to defend their title, and they're not going to mess around.
Yeah, Ohio State, that national championship win, huge for their program. They've been looking for it for a good few years now, and they felt like they were ready. They finally got over the hump. They had so much talent on that team. That's one of the most loaded teams we've seen in college football in a long time. But they lost it all. They lost a lot of it. We've got that entire offense, with the exception of Jeremiah Smith, which of course, that's the best player in the nation. So it's you can recover well enough. But you got Julian Sain making his first start here with facing the Texas Longhorns defense. That's no easy task to overcome. I like Arch Manning. I think he might have some growing pains, but they can lean on that run game if things aren't working out well. If they are struggling to get Arch Manning going, they can lean on the run game. They can pound the rock, and I think this Texas team is going to pick up a surprising win at Ohio State. But then next up, we have a battle of Death Valley supremacy, the Clemson Tigers facing the LSU Tigers. Who do you got?
Who do you think? I got to go with my Tigers. I got to go with LSU, and I think Garrett Nussmeier, big coming out party. It's going to be a massive quarterback battle, Cade Klubnik on the other side, and it's a tough road environment. It's going to be an orange out at Clemson. It's going to be raucous. But I think LSU has more talent all around on that roster, and I think they bring home the dub.
It's just hard not to go
Go Tigers.
You know, it's hard. It's so hard to pick against LSU. I'm a big Nussmeier fan as well. I think he could be one of the best quarterbacks in the nation this year, as long as universe doesn't explode or something like that between now and week 12. But I mean, Cade Klubnik's also he's no slouch. Like Harrison said, I think there's gonna be a quarterback battle. This will probably be a shootout. Given that we both said that, I wouldn't be surprised if the game ends 6-3. But I think it'll be LSU.
Yeah, really looking at this matchup, you got to look at Brian Kelly. All the expectations on him. Can he come in and get that opening week dub? They're going to find it. Yes, they will at Clemson. They're going to get the W.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and go with Clemson here. I mean, one of the deepest teams in college football, a lot of star players. Cade Klubnik going to have a great game. Up next, though, number 10, Miami, number 6, Notre Dame. Quickly, who do you got?
I'm taking the Road Dogs again, or I guess not really dogs because it's Notre Dame we're talking about here. It's Marcus Freeman, it's Jeremiah Love at running back. They're still they still have plenty of talent. So I'm going with Notre Dame here.
I believe in Carson Beck. I think Miami will be a very good team this year. I think a change of scenery for him was very good. I think he has he's gone to this program. This program's told him, you are our guy. So I think he's in a very good situation. He's got a Cavender twin with him. He's doing well. So I think he's in a very good position. I believe in him more than probably the average person does, which I understand. He put some things on tape that might not look so great, and I understand why there's people that don't really believe in him. But I think Carson Beck is a good college quarterback. If we're going to extrapolate, talk about NFL potential, that's different. But I think he'll have a good season. So I'm going to take Miami. I'm going to take them to come out strong, punch Notre Dame in the mouth, and get a win week 1.
Marcus Freeman obviously got these guys rocking and rolling. You talk about a team that I don't think anyone plays better with a lead than Notre Dame. When they get out on you, that defense will shut you down and they will feast. I think, I expect to see them get a couple turnovers off your boy, unfortunately, Patrick, and expect them to come out with the W.
I'm going to have to go ahead and go with Notre Dame behind Jeremiah Love. I think he's going to have an incredible game. But now it's time for conference champion.
So conference picks, I'm going in the Big 12, Utah Utes, like I talked about. I know. You weren't a fan of the Utah Utes, but I'm going with my Devin Dampier. Kyle Whittingham leads the Utes to a Big 12 title. SEC, I'm going Texas. ACC, weird one, SMU. I know they were inches away last year. They brought back a good portion of their talent. I mean, I think they're doing a really good job out there. And then Big 10, Ohio State, the university.
I'm going to go Big 12. I'm going to go K-State. I know they got off to a rough start, but I think they have a very good team. I don't foresee an FSU trajectory. So that's where I'm going to go for K-State. Big 10, I'm going Michigan. I think they were always going to be up there. They're always a favorite for a reason. They've got a really good program. So I'm going Michigan. The SEC, UT, which is the University of Texas. Just clarifying that once again. University of Texas, horns up. And then the ACC, Miami. Like I said, I'm a Carson Beck guy. I think he's got the talent. I think he's got the tools to do it. So I think it'll be Miami.
Yeah, looking over here at the Big 12, I almost went ASU, very confident in that team and their ability. But I went ahead and put the Colorado Buffaloes because that is what I believe that these players spoke to us last week. I'm riding the confidence. I like what they're doing on the offensive line. And Caden Salter, that's right there. Obviously, Arch Manning riding with that train as well. Texas, I think they're going to lose to Ohio State, but that's not a conference game. They're going to come out rock and roll. Clemson, of course, in the ACC, Cade Klubnik. I love the SMU mention as well there. Harrison, great, sneaky team. And, of course, rounding off with the Big 10, Ohio State. I just talked about them. They're going to get it done.
Yeah, for me, Big 12, I'm going to go Kansas State as well. I think that they will bounce back from that opening loss very well. Especially if Dylan Edwards can get healthy, that's going to play a large role in it, I think. But then SEC, I'm also going Texas. As I mentioned, like Arch Manning, like that backfield, their defense is really good. They're going to be a good team again this year. Clemson, winning the ACC, in my opinion, the deepest team in college football. Incredible stars there. And then for Big 10, I think this is the year Penn State finally gets it done. They have so much talent on here, on this team, that there are two outcomes. They win the Big 10 or James Franklin is looking for a job by the end of the season. So if they can't win with this team, they are never going to. But that leads us to our final game, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets facing the Colorado Buffaloes, two co-national champions in 1990, facing off for the first time in program history here today.
Intercepted by Colorado. Dion Figures. And Figures runs out the clock. And the Figures may be number one for Colorado.
North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Running and working on the clock. Hill swinging free. He's open. He'll go.
January 1st, 1991. This was the day 35 years ago that the Colorado Buffaloes and Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets were both named national champions.
Hey, we did it. We came in here. We got a quest.
This happened with neither team having faced one another all season due to the lack of any kind of playoff or national championship game.
I feel confident that no matter what happens tonight with Colorado, I think we'll be number one because I think we show a lot of people that we can play, and we can play with the best of them.
As a matter of fact, they'd never shared the field once in the history of their programs, and in the decades following that fateful New Year's Day, that has remained the case. That is, until now. The first game of 2025 marks the first ever meeting between the Buffs and Jackets, with both teams trending in a positive direction and hoping that conference championships lie just over the not-so-distant horizon.
It's personal. Fellas, that's how we're training. That's how we're thinking. Relentless, focused together.
Make every punch harder than the punch before.
We coming.
As the eyes of the Rocky Mountains look on, a clash of gold will take place in Boulder in a matchup over 3 decades in the making. All right, so who do you have taking this game?
I hate the fact that I'm going first. I am going with Georgia Tech. I am going with the Yellow Jackets. I know. It's a tough one. I think it's going to be a really close game. I think it's going to be low scoring, but I think Haynes King and that rushing attack is going to be a little too much with the Colorado defense that's still trying to congeal on the interior. And then for the offense, a lot of those unproven wide receivers against a really, really good secondary. It's a unique challenge that I don't know if the Buffs are quite ready for this early in the season.
I think the first half's going to be slugfest. It's going to be a war of attrition in the first half, but I think in the second half, I think Colorado opens things up. I think this game goes 28-24 Colorado in overtime. That's what I foresee. And I think it's going to be a Caden Salter rushing touchdown to put it away.
You know what? The Caden Salter era is here, Patrick Dawson. I'm glad you brought up that name. I think the new running game, the revamped regime, 3 offensive line coaches, we are going to see some smash-mouth Colorado football we haven't seen in years. I'm 100% bought in. Give me Colorado.
I love the Buffs. I love this team. Dude, Georgia Tech, Kyle Efford on that defense is scary. That guy is he's going to hurt the run game. Haynes King is surgical on offense. Jamal Haynes in the backfield is going to be exhausting. This team, Colorado matches up well, I think. I think they have a lot of good players. Georgia Tech is a hard team to beat. But I'm to the last page of my notes here, and that actually says Buffs by 1,000,000. Give me the Buffs winning this game and starting off the season with a win. Thank you all for joining us here today on the first ever episode of Buffs Football Live. Enjoy this weekend of games. Take care.